Fanula, we are right off of Tahrir Square, where 4 armored personnel carriers have been deployed with around 100 soldiers from the Egyptian army to sort of reestablish order here. The clash seems to have come to an end, and we're told. I think we're having some problems here. They're trying to take away our camera. لا 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 على مهلك يا ضابط على مهلك لو سمحت على مهلك.
And that would appear to be that. Ben Wiedemann there in the middle of giving us a live report, and he was stopped by the Egyptian military, and you could hear them saying no, no camera.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. That was a few days ago, and I've been meaning to play that. Didn't get a lot of publicity. Ben Wiedemann, stationed in Egypt for CNN, given a live report at the time, and they took his camera away. It was pretty wild. Joining us right now, I'm very happy to say, is Barry Rubin, Director of the Global Research and International Affairs Center, known as GLORIA. Hey, Barry, how are you, sir?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you for coming on. You wrote a piece that was posted at pjmedia.com yesterday, where you asked the question, will Obama support the new regime or keep fighting for the Muslim Brotherhood and the old regime, if you will? And you talk about the administration making a stunning statements that really define the foreign policy of the Obama administration. It's a wonderful article. So to tell the folks about this.
In an article, a Wire article, they quoted 2 members of the National Security Council, and they were very clear that this was out of conversations that Obama had, and they said the following. Number one, their position is that their current position is that they want a coalition government, which is ridiculous. It won't work at all. And then they said the attempt to fight the Muslim Brotherhood won't work, and that all that it will do is it will radicalize them and turn them into al-Qaeda, and then they will attack the United States. And what that indicated, I think, is it really tied up the last 4 years of policy. That this is the basic conception that if you help the Muslim Brotherhood, then they'll be nice to you and they'll appreciate it. But if you press them hard and you oppose them, they will take revenge by terrorism. This is, by the way, ridiculous. There's not been any implication of terrorism, particularly terrorism against the U.S. homeland. And the idea that you would have a situation in which the U.S. was held hostage, was intimidated by threats that haven't even been made, and therefore has to put these countries under the rule of extremist dictatorships. This is like totally contrary to all American foreign policy in all of history.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I would agree with you. So you drew what conclusion from these statements?
I drew a conclusion that what happened was that John Brennan, who is now the head of the CIA, formulated the basic policy of Brennan Doctrine, which is that the main goal is to stop another September 11th. The way to stop September 11th is to put Islamist groups into power, help them get into power, or certainly not oppose them from taking power. Then they will be friendly toward the United States. They will keep more extreme groups under control, and they won't attack the U.S. Of course, the problem is this: is your major emphasis on having 100 or 200 million people living in countries which are controlled by Islamism, basically surrendering the U.S. position in the Middle East and having massacres of Christians and other people? Or is your main position that this is the United States of America, is a great power, and you don't appease people, especially terrorists or would-be terrorists? That no policy in history has ever surrendered, as I say, to threats not even made to appease enemy forces.
Yeah, and this is the same John Brennan who not only referred famously to Jerusalem as Al-Quds, but also read us the riot act about how the Muslim Brotherhood is good and nonviolent and wants peace and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So we know where John Brennan unfortunately is coming from. Let's talk in more general terms, Barry. We're talking to Barry Rubin, director of the Global Research and International Affairs Center, known as GLORIA, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. He's written a couple of great pieces at pjmedia.com. You talk about Egypt as being a teachable moment in world history. How so?
Well, the lesson was learned during the communist period. The lesson was learned during the fascist period, and the lesson should have been learned during the Arab nationalist period. That they're extremely radical, enemy, hostile movements which oppose U.S. interests and usually also oppose liberty and democratic freedom. And you can't appease these. You have to confront them. You have to deal with them in whatever way is necessary. And you support the forces that are favorable to you, whether those forces be strategically favorable, and even better if they're, it's even better if they're pro-freedom and so on. But if you have to, you deal with them as allies for strategic reasons. Now, this lesson was learned in the 40s by fascism, in the late 40s in communism, and 60s and 70s in Arab nationalism. It's been learned elsewhere. Now it's being faced in the Middle East. Unfortunately, what's happened, and I'm speaking, somebody who's usually in the Middle East, that people have lost faith in U.S. support, and they do not expect, and as we've seen in Cairo, they do not expect the U.S. to support them, or at least the Obama administration to support them. President Obama said in his first inauguration speech, he said, "We don't want to be on the wrong side of history." He said, "We have had presidents who have had to apologize because they supported dictatorship." Well, I think the supporting forces of radical Islamism are not on the side of history, and even more, you can justify in realpolitik terms sometimes supporting regimes which are not very nice if they are in favor of your strategic interests.
Which is what Mubarak was. Isn't that the case?
Look, the thing is, to be very frank, Mubarak administration was a soft dictatorship. It's not a situation in a country that people would speak up against the regime and then they would come and arrest you. There was a large measure of freedom. The economy was doing better. The problem was that Mubarak did not go into retirement, that he was very old, that he did not make preparations for a successor, or at least he made preparations for a successor who really was very strongly disliked in the elite. And the elite decided that they wanted the regime overthrown or wanted to get rid of Mubarak. Now, what happened was that there came up a choice. The State Department followed traditional U.S. policy, and it said, okay, they dispatched the former ambassador, and they said, we will support you, get rid of Mubarak, make some reforms, give more freedom, and preserve the regime. The Obama administration, the White House, not the State Department, the White House rejected this and, as I say, supported the Muslim Brotherhood and wanted a change of regime. Now, of course, the President of the United States can't easily decide who's in power in Egypt. But there were about 5 specific points where President Obama put his weight behind the Muslim Brotherhood rule. I'll just give 2 examples. One example is the harsh criticism of the Mubarak regime, the pushing for elections as quickly as possible, even though the moderate opposition didn't want the elections as quickly as possible because they needed time to prepare. The statement that President Obama made, when no one asked him, that he wouldn't have any problem in seeing the Muslim Brotherhood as part of the government. And there are many other statements.
Right.
So and also that they did not help. Look, there are a lot of problems with moderates in Egypt. I can talk about that too. They're really, it's not that a lot of people in the streets want democracy and freedom, but the leadership of these groups is not highly competent. Nevertheless, as far as we understand, the money that was spent to help people learn how to run in elections and organize, it's been said widely, was spent on behalf of the Muslim Brotherhood groups.
Yep.
Because the Obama administration, and they truly, genuine, sincerely believed it. I've talked to people on many occasions. They would say, if we get these people in power, we won't have any more problems because, number one, they'll be grateful. Number two, they'll eventually moderate. Number three, they will keep down the further radicals. Now, I just want to say that I have worked on Egypt and the Middle East countries for 40 years, and these statements could only be made by people who have no understanding of the region and how those societies work.
Yeah, your credentials are impeccable, Barry. Hey, listen, I thank you for a very fascinating chat, and we'll do it again, sir.